Today I'm announcing action to help New York, California, and Washington ensure that the National Guard can effectively respond to this crisis. The National Guard, these are tremendous people. They're fully on alert. We've signed what we had to sign, and it's been activated. We're dealing also with other states. These states have been hit the hardest. Actually, pretty much by far, you could say the hardest. Everybody can see that. Just look at the numbers. And through FEMA, the federal government will be funding 100% of the cost of deploying National Guard units to carry out approved missions to stop the virus while those governors remain in command. So the governors locally are going to be in command and will be following them, and we hope they can do the job, and I think they will. I spoke with all three of the governors today and just a little while ago, and they're very happy with what we're going to be doing because we'll be announcing some other things for those three states and some other states where it's hit the hardest. This action will give them maximum flexibility to use the Guard against the virus without having to worry about costs or liability, and freeing up state resources to protect the health and safety of the people in their state. The federal government has deployed hundreds of tons of supplies from our national stockpile to locations with the greatest need. In order to assist in those areas, I approved the state of New York's request for a major disaster declaration, something which Governor Cuomo has been asking for and which I agree, and we had it done in very rapid fashion. We approved this on Friday evening, and we are working very, very hard to get all of these things not only signed up, but completed and finished and win. The request from the state of Washington for a major disaster declaration was approved just a little while ago, went through the process, and we moved it very quickly. The request from the state of California was just received, and we will have it approved very quickly. We'll be working. I told that to Gavin Newsom, and we're working on getting that done very quickly. It'll be done maybe tonight. We have large quantities of medical equipment and supplies on the way based on all of this to those states, including respirators, surgical masks and gowns, face shields, coveralls, and gloves, with large quantities already delivered to Washington and to New York. In addition to large quantities of supplies, I've also directed FEMA to supply the following: 4 large federal medical stations with 1,000 beds for New York, 8 large federal medical stations with 2,000 beds for California, and 3 large federal medical stations and 4 small federal medical stations with 1,000 beds for the state of Washington. The governors know.
All right. I don't know why Negroes don't believe fat meat is greasy. Now, Cynthia McKinney retweeted something or liked the video that when I showed these, well, they said they do call them tanks, but people say that they're Bradley fighting vehicles, which is basically a tank, armored personnel carriers. So they say, okay? Tomato, tomato. Now it was a line of them. It's like there was like over 100 of them, right, in Long Island. And so the video says, so the poster says. Now, people say that it's an old video, or it's not current, or I've seen this video before. You know, I said if you, the people that have disparaged it said, look, if you have the video, the original video, post it or put a link to it so we can actually see the original video. If it's an old video, I looked at the links. Nobody was saying that. Looked at the original thread. Nobody said it was an old video. But I posted it because it was actually a highlighted point that the shit's getting ready to get real. Because before the National Guard does anything, they got to get equipment. Equipment has to come either before them or just after them. Normally it's staged before they get there. And if you're going to have a massive deployment of National Guards, you're going to have a massive deployment of equipment. Those two things go together. It was like a 20-second video. People fucking freaked out. Oh, this happens all the time. Oh, we see this kind of deployment of vehicles and equipment all the time. You really don't see that many, that level of movement unless the only time you see it is if they're having extreme, like large scale military games. I mean, really large scale military games. And they announce them in advance that it's going on. Like in California, if they're trying to train for a war, Syria, anybody, Iraq, anybody, where they have a large movement of man and material going to one place, you'll see it, or you may see it. I've never seen that many tanks or that many of the same thing all on one train. And that many pieces of the same equipment all at one spot is highly unusual, which is all I was saying. And if it was New York, you never see that kind of movement in New York. Not that many. They have brothers say, well, this happens all the time. No, it does not happen all the time. And there's other reports of equipment moving in certain states. Well, it's unusual. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing's going to happen. Less than 24 hours later, from me posting the video, guess what Donald Trump does? He actually talks about the deployment in 3 states of the National Guard. And he said maybe a few others. 1 + 1 = 2. You see the movement of a massive movement of equipment, something's getting ready to go on. Now, everybody wants to project out that you're going to get martial law or the suspension of the Constitution. They're going to invade your house. Now, that's out of the world bullshit. Okay, I would never believe that. That's too difficult to do. Way too difficult to do. But if you take a large state of like California, that's the 3rd largest state in the country, like 1,300 miles long and about 400 miles wide, with a population of 40 million people, or the city of Los Angeles, or the metropolitan area of Los Angeles, which has 13 million people. And it's not condensed like New York. 100 tanks and 200 tanks is not going to lock down Los Angeles. It's too big, too many roads out. If you expand that to California, 100 tanks are not going to do anything. The state's too big. But the thing is, you can enforce a curfew, and you can use these vehicles as backup, just in case. The tanks are like a last ditch effort when you're really getting ready to enforce a very harsh curfew and get people off the streets. And they have parked tanks on freeways and under freeway overpasses. And I've seen tanks parked during the LA riot. I've seen them on the streets. I've seen them at major intersections. So yes, they do deploy them. And I've seen tanks on the freeway, especially during a riot, going from one place to another. So saying that it's impossible that it doesn't happen in a state of emergency, yes, it does. This is a state of emergency. And your president just initiated the first steps, which add that to the movement of equipment. That means that this is going somewhere. And this situation is a lot more serious than people actually believe. Like I said, when will you Negroes believe that this is real? When will you believe that that this is real? If you have an economic collapse, which could easily happen, you can't deploy the National Guard that quickly. It takes weeks. It takes weeks. It doesn't take hours. It takes weeks to actually deploy the National Guard and position them. You have to recall all these people. You got 450,000 people. You have to call these people up. You have to get them to where the spots where they're supposed to be and get them into their equipment. The military does not do anything willy-nilly. And they won't tell you that it's going on until after everything's in position. So you have all these reports around the country that they're seeing this activity. The first thing they're going to say is that this is a hoax. Just like they said with this virus, it's a hoax. It's nothing. There's no big deal. We have it under control until they don't. And then next thing you know, they're closing down your schools and your bars and your sporting events and blah, 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 right? Next thing you know, well, we have it under control. And then all of a sudden they put in restrictions on your movement. When will you guys believe this is real? The only reason you guys want to get upset because you don't want to be restricted. You don't believe it's real. You're willing to take a chance and go out there and do whatever. You're willing to go out there, catch it, and spread it to everybody else because you don't believe it's real. You believe that your government's lying to you, even while you're looking at them doing stuff. Okay, they have a plot. They're closing down schools because they have a plot. The stock market is taking a hit because they're trying to put us under martial law. But the thing is, then on the other end, you don't believe they will invoke martial law because you think it's not real, that the pictures aren't real, that what they're doing is not real until it is. I have put only a small amount of the information that has come out about the virus and the politics and the economics behind this particular event. A small amount. I put a small amount out and you niggas go crazy. They're sending people fucking home and telling them not to work. They're willing to pay each person $1,000 to stay home out of their pockets, out of the federal government's pockets. Suspend the tax date, suspend mortgages. And none of this stuff is real to you guys. If they're willing to do all that, you don't think they're going to put tanks on the streets if necessary, or put the National Guard on corners if necessary. Stuff is right in front of your eyes and you guys still won't believe it. You guys have been, sometimes it makes me tired. You guys fight tooth and nail over every single fucking thing. Everything. Y'all fight tooth and nail over. Everything you disbelieve. Everything. And then when it happens, then you run away with your tail tucked between your legs. This is probably why the black community fails all the time. You guys don't take shit seriously. You don't believe nothing. Like my mama used to say, you don't believe that fat meat is greasy. The same stupid comments about everything. Oh, black women don't change. Niggas, you out getting those I miss you calls and I miss you texts. Well, they ain't submitted yet. Dude, this just started happening. You think they supposed to all of a sudden realize that shit hits the fan and a light bulb goes on and they're supposed to get their knee pads out and start sucking your dick? Come on, grow up. If these events don't convince you of anything, then I'm wasting my time. You guys walk around trying to deny this stuff and it's right in your face. I put the video up yesterday. Today they announced the deployment of National Guard. They're moving their equipment. They're putting this stuff in place, which is what I said yesterday. This is not ordinary. Anyway, let me jump off of here, man, before I start ranting. I don't want to rant because I'm basically tired. I'm really tired. Y'all come in with the same shit with no proof, even though the stuff is right in front of your face. This stuff has been going on since December. It ain't gonna strike here. We ain't got nothing to worry about. That's a Chinese virus. It don't affect black people. They ain't gonna shut down this economy. They won't let the kids out of school. Jesus Christ. Anyway, this is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.